Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
And good day.
Good day, guys. So, this is from the War Zone, and we see Navy UFO patent documents talk of space-time modification weapon. Wow. Detailed experimental testing. The Navy spent 3 years and considerable sums of money testing the PAIS effect and may have transferred the program to another agency, perhaps DARPA, as DARPA is always making very, very unusual things that would probably terrify the masses if they knew exactly what was being done.
Well, those would be the weapons of the gods, I feel. There's a lot of things that they have coming out that we probably wouldn't really be able to fathom or completely understand.
And what we're going to look at, in this video is basically this duality that's going on before our eyes, because as we've said, there's this push for high tech, and the high tech's already there. It's been there. And we do know, many of us know and understand that there is an extraterrestrial, interdimensional influence in all this and control system that's been in place to limit the disclosure of what's really going on all around us. And this split is I think fascinating, because you have one side that wants to tempt and tantalize and tease us with disclosure of these amazing technologies that perhaps could, double our lifespans, quadruple, or even, 10 times our lifespans, kind of eradicate disease, give us the ability to travel throughout the solar system, out to the stars, just all these amazing things, get rid of everything that's petroleum based, as far as, our technology with cars and things like that, and airplanes, and just tease us with that future, while there is also the spiritual side of things, which, if we were not interfered with and able to really build upon in a positive light, could give us, all those things in an organic manner.
Oh, yeah, that's so important. Things like even anti-aging, sitting down to be able to meditate on your telemeters and repairing your DNA. These are things that I strongly feel we're capable of deep down within. But at the same time, I'm not against technologies that are going to help our health and help us be more vibrant and reach those places.
Oh, it's going to be interesting, the time right ahead of us right now, and that we're getting into. So they've been doing a continuing investigation here at the Drive into this doctor's works. And I've read about him in the past and some of his patents. If you start looking at all the stuff that's been declassified, all these patents, and you were talking in the last video about timeline jumps. Well, it could be that it's maybe an organic thing with the individual, or maybe it's not even organic. Maybe some of these shifts and jumps are the product of somebody turning on a switch over at DARPA. That's part of what we're getting at here. So in their continuing investigation into the bizarre inventions of Dr. Salvatore Cesar Pais, an enigmatic aerospace engineer who works for the U.S. Navy, the War Zone has obtained a wide range of documents detailing experiments that Naval Air Warfare Center Aircraft Division conducted to test the core concepts and technologies underlining the seemingly out-of-the-world, quote-unquote, UFO patents. These same patents were vouched for by the head of the Navy's Aerospace Research Enterprise, who cited Chinese advances in similar technologies as one of the reasons why the Navy was filing them. The War Zone's most recent report on the strange circumstances surrounding these patents underlined that they were indeed some type of physical experiments conducted related to them, even if limited. Now, new Freedom of Information Act releases provide unprecedented insights not just into how seriously the Navy took Dr. Pais's work, but also exactly how elements of it were actually tested at the cost of hundreds of thousands of dollars, and where the program may have ended up. The materials even include mention of a space-time modification weapon. That's interesting. Now that gets me thinking of the Brahmastra and these weapons that we hear out of the Vedas, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, the Puranas, all the ancient Hindu mythologies that, openly talk about these quote unquote beings, these gods, flying overhead, and oh, okay, that's just Rama flying over there, or no, that's the demon, so and so, that's over there, that's his ship. So, these things were out in the open so much, and people just took it for granted. And it's not just out of the Indus Valley. And I feel like that is going all the way back to Lemurian times. There's been many different beings on this planet with way advanced technology, as we had talked about. Why does the Vatican have a Dyson sphere, right there in their front yard, in their courtyard?
Oh, I know. And, you're really unique in the sense that you have read the Vedas and you've read all these things and you're aware of these technologies. But anyone else just starting to read this might think that, wow, this is the pinnacle of society. This is the pinnacle of, modernization, when really it's not. We've been here before.
And the masses had a better understanding in the past of the fact that we're not alone on the planet. We've never been alone on this planet. And, the interdimensionality of life as well, the multidimensionality that we can move. If we had all of our DNA activated, like has been in the past, and which we're in the process of activating again, we could shift in and out of realities. And many people have talked about the Mandela effect. And, it's fascinating. Do you remember Jiffy peanut butter? Or was it always Jif? Because I kind of remember it being Jiffy, and then it seemed like it turned to Jif.
I do too. I look at both of them. They both look familiar in their own way.
And like Looney Tunes, was it Toons, or was it like tunes as in music, Tunes? And of course we had the Berenstain Bears, or the Berenstain Bears. There's so many different things, in Mandela himself. When did he die? When did he really die? Was it Oscar Mayer, Meyer? I remember that. It wasn't Mayer, May. It's my baloney has a first name. It's
Mayer, Mayer, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it goes on and on. Fruit Loops and what's up with that? Is that all just a vast proportion of the population having the same mental glitch? Or are we really jumping at times back and forth between different realities?
Well, you would remember this, but I'm trying to remember the first time I discovered the Mandela effect, and it was a quote in the Bible, and I actually had my grandmother's Bible, and I don't remember the exact quote at the moment, but it was something like the lion laid down with the wolf, or was it the lion laid down with the lamb? And when I went... is normally the lamb, but when I went to check, it was the lion laid down with something else. It wasn't the lamb. And because it was my grandma's Bible, that's what really got me thinking.
Well, that's something I used to do before too, because I had like dozens of different versions of the Bible in physical form, and I would go and compare one scripture and to all the other translations, and they could be quite different depending on which one you're looking at. So that was another habit of mine when I was dissecting it, and then kind of became an unbeliever in the traditional sense, because I could see all the inconsistencies, and there was things that just didn't click if you took it at the literal standpoint. But getting back to this, they say this space-time modification weapon, a weapon that can make the hydrogen bomb seem like a firecracker in comparison. So again, and they talk about this all throughout the ancient texts, and we actually have places that seem to have, they show evidence of nuclear blasts in the past. And we have gotten from talking to the galactics and our guides that it truly is an abomination, because when they even just test that, they are ripping space-time. They are affecting beings on other dimensions.
Oh yeah, they're definitely ripping holes in dimensions, which is causing people to have disturbances that otherwise they would not have.
So we see here a little diagram about high energy electromagnetic field generator, and it gets into more of the different things that he was working on and given pretty good sums of money to develop. The technology that Admiral Byrd encountered with, Operation High Jump, going down there to Antarctica and then seeing the NAZI saucers that kicked his butt and sent him back with his tail between his legs. And then we got the saucers buzzing the Capitol, and we have the Battle of Los Angeles. And all this is happening in a time frame to just say, how the technology is so dominant when we start talking about this technology that has been classified. And we got to wonder too, and many have brought this up, like if there ever was a third big conflagration, would they reel it out? Because there's the controllers that are behind all this. Again, the countries themselves are an illusion of sorts, because there are higher beings that are manipulating everything and controlling this reality and controlling it. And this is what we're trying to get at. Controlling it in what way? Can they even reset and redo things? Can they say, okay, this didn't go right. Okay. And then did you guys ever see, and I've talked about this, and I had showed Cindy the movie Dark City, where, people believe they're living on a planet, but they're actually living on a spaceship. And every night they're put to sleep by the aliens, and then things are rearranged and changed as the aliens keep doing their experiments on what exactly is human consciousness. And, changing the scenarios, like rich couple all of a sudden becomes poor couple all of a sudden becomes rich. Do they all act the same way, or is there something individual and unique in the human soul? Which, we know that is the case because, again, if you look at it from, the Western mystery tradition or the Eastern point of view, every incarnation is just a day in the life of the soul.
Right. Well, what they do want to find out if there's something unique and different in the human soul. But then after they find that unique and different thing, then they want to know how to manipulate it. So then there's that.
So the reason why we're getting all this out there is because, it's not going to be too long before you're going to be seeing technology with perhaps your own very eyes that is going to just make your head spin. So they're letting us know here, this is again a soft disclosure. As you see this, compact fusion reactor. When people realize that all the fracking that's been done, none of it had to be, because this technology has been around forever, and it's just been hidden from us. There's much more going on behind the scenes, and these are some patents. I'll give you guys the links so you could look at them and take a peek into these things. High frequency gravitational wave generator. Think about what you can do with that from many standpoints. We know that consciousness is most definitely affected by energy waves. What is really going on up at HARP and CERN and all these other places that we don't even know about? Who knows what's being generated down the bases in Antarctica that is affecting the consciousness of the whole planet? As we've talked about all this, and we see here generational trauma can change the brain circuitry of an unborn baby. Generational. So this is something else to consider and to realize too, because we do a lot of work energetically trying to help people, with their DNA memory, because this shows that the unborn baby can hold the trauma of the parents, and it's not the baby that experienced it, it's passed on through the DNA.
Oh, I know, and this is something that's touched my life, in a huge way, and it's made certain things more difficult for me to work through. And when you don't know this, you don't understand this, it can be extremely frustrating thinking, well, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. I do believe the powers that be understood this long ago. So there are certain, people that they put through traumas knowing that generations going by, it would unravel that DNA, and they would unravel because of lack of education. Basically, if I'd have known this earlier, I would have been able to start working on it earlier, because it also affects my children, my grandchildren. So when we heal, it's so important to understand not only are you healing yourself, you're healing your ancestral DNA, and you're healing before and behind you. That's so important for moving people into alignment and people having an understanding of what's going on. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just you've been tinkered with. So sometimes that makes it harder for you to connect to higher self, and that doesn't make you bad or wrong. It just means that there's work to do.
There's a lot of work to do, for sure. And so when we recognize this, and there's a book out called Catastrophophobia, and it was a good book because it talks about, and it was Barbara Handclough, and she's been on Gaia in recent years, though her book, that book is probably 20 or 30 years old at least. But it talks about the fact that we, in many cases, when we see things happening, we automatically think, here we go, this is the end of the world. But what she's saying is that it's in our DNA from the last quote-unquote end of the world, going back to perhaps the Younger Dryas event. That trauma that was experienced by our ancestors is still in our DNA. So anytime we see anything that resembles that or gives us, clicks and turns on those motor neurons, it brings the trauma back to the forefront. And DNA is multidimensional too. That's the other aspect of it. The multidimensional nature of epigenetic information and its role in dis-ease. Again, disease. We can actually, why are some things hereditary? Well, it's always energy that we can't deal with or haven't been able to deal with that gets stored in what we call in Qigong Lao channels, which are actual spots on the physical body where the information is stored because we can't process and release it yet. And that could be passed down from one generation to another.
Oh my gosh, it so can. And the things that get stuck in our actual organs, and that's why some people have what's called a cleansing crisis or a healing crisis, because once these things are able to be diffused, they can be released from the body in a very physical way, which is just something that I find so fascinating when I see it happen over and over and over again. And then these people are able to have these new epiphanies and slowly move further into alignment with their higher self.
Yeah, so we are so much more than, what we think. And, when we have been given that perception that most of our DNA is just junk, that's just ignorance. Because also, they don't want to tell you, that relates to your multidimensionality, which means you can escape the matrix that is surrounding you if you unravel those mysteries. But we are multidimensional beings, and there has been a clipping of our wings, so to speak, and we are getting our wings back. That's the bottom line about this, and we're going to have choices to choose. Everybody's going to have choices to choose, and you're going to have to pick. Do you want to do it the organic way, and maybe not even pick, because there will be some forcing and coercion we know coming as well. Or, head towards that singularity of man and machine and that merging with the Borg, as we've talked about so much. As again, there's always this counterfeit to the beautiful divine plan that goes on. And the counterfeit's always given to us and shown to us, and we're encouraged to accept the counterfeit, but we don't have to.
That's right. So that's another thing to think about, which way do you want to go? But then again, like we're always saying, it doesn't have to be either or. There are certain things that might come along, and if this improves your life and improves the lives of your children, and it's going to benefit you, think about it, meditate on it. Is it right for you? But everything should be taken into careful consideration because of our organic abilities. I think those are far more powerful than anything that they have to offer on the 3D level.
So we want to thank you guys for being part of the family, and Cindy's going to do a little quick tuning for us as we go, because, again, everything is vibration, and the sound of, what's that one?
DNA repair.
Oh, this is DNA repair. That's so perfect, and so this sound could actually affect your DNA as you listen to this and help it to unwind in the right way and to repair.
And, have a positive image of yourself in your mind's eye, because the energy is going to look for instruction, and it's going to find that instruction in your mind. So think very positive right now.
So thank you guys for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Anybody needs to reach out to us, it's EEARTS at ProtonMail or evolutionaryenergyarts at gmail.com. As always, God bless and namaste.
Namaste.